All right, guys. So we did our first session together yesterday, and it went well. I definitely there was a point there in my session. I looked up at the clock and I realized what time it was, and I had to skedaddle pretty fast because I'd been at the gym a lot longer than I had intended. So, you know, I had I told you guys last session about uh, about how I have I had an issue with training in the gym as far as training for aesthetics, and how I feel like there was some moral issues I had with that. And I even knew it before I was uh, more religious as I am now. And I instinctually kind of knew that there was something wrong with that. There's something wrong with just being so self-focused, and I didn't know what it was. But then I realized that when you start to focus on yourself more than you focus on God, um, and then you start to think that you're more important. You're the one doing all this, and God has no play in actually what's going on. Whereas in reality, all things we do are due to God in the first place. And when you start to train and live with that in mind, and just with that fundamental understanding that we're only here due to his grace, and we only ever achieve anything due to his grace, um, then all of a sudden you start to get your ego out of all of this, and you start to realize you don't play as big a role in this as you think you do. And it's a healthier way to train, and it's also a healthier way to live life as well, which I don't necessarily do all that well all the time. And like I said in one part of my session yesterday, and I said that, look, I one issue I had a lot of the time was I would approach weight training, and my ego would get in the way, and I would, instead of lifting the weights that are required for bodybuilding, I, instead of that, lifted heavier than the weights I needed for bodybuilding, because I saw what other people were doing around me, and I saw that they were stronger than me, and I thought I needed to lift as heavy as them or heavier. Otherwise, they're going to think less of me, and so that's what I did. But then it also stifled my training, and it led to other issues as well. Like I think I even probably got an injury or two because of it. And so as soon like if you can let your ego go, and remember, you're not here for anyone else. You're here first and foremost to strengthen yourself so that you become more capable of being virtuous, so that way we can better serve God, we can serve our families, and we can serve our friends and our community and everyone around us, and we can be better people because of it. And another part of all this is, I'm actually not in super good shape right now. I've been in better shape, and a lot of the reason why I'm not in as good a shape as I could be in is because one day I sort of snapped. You know, I was I I was really interested in and focused in entrepreneurship and making money, and I was not at all focused on God. It was not in the forefront of my mind at all. And so what happened is I was really focused on self development. So I was looking at these self development books, and I was really reading all these, like How to Win Friends and Influence People book, which actually does have some um, good merits in there, and all this and things like that, and which it does, and I think if looked through the right lens, it could actually still be quite good. But I wasn't. I was just looking through an atheist lens, a self-serving lens, and it became unhealthy, I think. And just not just that book, but like many books like that. And so I was just consuming all these books just to achieve not just selfish lens, not just selfish, not to just reach selfish means, but that was certainly part of it. But it was also I did want to serve and help people too, for sure. But the mistake that I made, and a lot of people make, and you know, we have to have grace for people that do this, and sort of have an understanding for them, because I definitely understand what it is to do this. Is that I did all this, and I felt like I was doing it all. Everything rested on my shoulders. If I didn't do anything, if I did something, it was all my glory. And if I didn't do anything, it's because I didn't try hard enough. And I was totally, I had no idea that God was to play, had any play in anything I was doing at all, and um, and eventually that's how I was kind of like living my life, and that's actually fairly culturally acceptable. All that stuff is pretty mainstream. It's what perhaps you're even encouraged to think and do, and and I had um, I had this like sort of feeling in the back of my mind that I wasn't doing what I was doing wasn't fully fulfilling, and it wasn't um, I wasn't doing the most good, and you know uh, I had this one girl I was training, and she had a disease where she had a muscle wasting going on, and I always thought I could do anything, I can fix anything, and training is really powerful, and we can do anything, and and then I found that actually I couldn't, and I sort of had you know um, I had this kind of snap, and I was like, oh, you know, uh, you know, I'd lost meaning in my work all of a sudden. I was like, I can't actually do everything. Not everything's on me, and I had this snap that last that I'd even go as far as to say it was a bit of a breakdown, and it probably lasted like probably 5 years or so, and I was like tossing and turning, and I was like, I didn't know what I was doing. I lost motivation for everything I was doing, including training my clients and including training myself. I had the discipline and the virtue of doing all those things, but it wasn't backed up by meaning anymore. And because I didn't, I didn't know if what I was doing was good anymore. I didn't know. I feel like I could have been doing more, or something better, but I kind of snapped, and my body stopped working the same way. Like I wanted to go and do programs and do work, but when I first had like this snap, and I tried to physically open my laptop to do work, but I couldn't. I I physically couldn't get my body to do it. It's just my body was saying no. There's something going on there, saying no, stop. And you know, and then just recently, with a bit of reflection, and all these years of and going all this time and figuring out, what was going on with me, um, and it was all mental, by the way, or spiritual as well, to some degree, which I haven't quite figured out. But another story for another time. But I figured that what really was is I wanted to serve God, but I didn't know how. And that's where I got to yesterday with you guys. I figured that, oh wow, I could really use training to help people become more virtuous and to help them uphold their spiritual life better, and um, and train with good good focus, not focus on self, which is the most common thing in training at the gym. It's mostly focus on self. How can I get better? How can, and how can I look better? And Whereas I think if we can refocus ourselves towards thinking, okay, we're doing this, for God, our families, and our community, and our friends, and all that, right? Which is a really, really noble and just reason to train. So that's what this has all come to. But so this journey right now is actually, I suppose, a bit of a renaissance of me getting back into training, but with purpose, to become virtuous again, and um, and to help guide people with me. You know, so that's what this is all about. So if you want to get on this journey as well, continue to follow. And like I said last video, I really haven't really thought much more about what we're doing here, except to take you guys through my sessions, answer your questions, and see if I can help out in any which way I can. So today we're going to be going out there, and I'm going to do a bit of an upper body session. So my goal here would be to is actually doing hypertrophy, and hypertrophy, is actually the foundations a lot for training, because what it does is it's a great way to learn exercises if you haven't really been to gym a lot, because what we're doing with hypertrophy is we're doing lots and lots and lots of reps, and which is a really good way to learn exercises. If we jump straight to strength, there's a lot of things we're missing, but also you're only doing like maybe 5 or so reps, and you're not really, getting a lot of time to work on technique and stuff. But with hypertrophy, this gives you time to work on technique. But what it also does is it helps us sort of build stability in the joints at a low weight. It also helps build muscle, which is going to be helpful when we actually go to get stronger later. And it just builds a good foundation for you to start other types of training from as well. Now, that's in a sense, is actually where I'm at. I've been training for many years now. Um, you know, uh, probably about 16, 17 years or so now. But nonetheless, I haven't really been upholding my training as well as I should. So I'm going to bring myself back down to basics. I'm going to start with hypertrophy, and I'm going to build up some muscle. I'm going to do this for a period of time. Then we're going to switch up later, and actually going to do some strength work. And so today we're going to do is an upper body session. We're going to be working push and pull, so chest and back basically, but not shoulder, so more chest and back, I should say. Yep. And so this is now day 2 of this program. So now, as per usual, there's one really good way to get started with our sessions and to remember why we're doing this for. And hopefully we're going to be doing this for the glory of God. And so the best way to start this is with a prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Dear Lord, please guide us through this session and help us to keep in our hearts and in our minds and in our actions that this session is for your glory, to help strengthen us physically and mentally, and so that we become more virtuous and be able to be more able to serve you, and please help us get through this session, if it be your will, injury free, and help this session and these videos help other people. Glory be to God. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Alright, so as I mentioned before, my right shoulder happens to be the shoulder that's a little bit more mobile, but also a little bit more unstable. So this is an exercise I find that really helps. It is pretty an old school exercise, but I find it really helps. It makes my shoulders feel way better when I'm going to go bench. And now my shoulder issue doesn't actually stem as much from my shoulder as it does actually from my thoracic region. I know this to be true, but this nonetheless certainly helps. Now, I'm looking to get around 12 or so reps out here, but also if you're like burning up, you're probably in the right realm. What I like to do is when my shoulders actually start to burn for this exercise, I like to go for another 2 to 3 reps or so, and that'll be do. Oh, that's pretty good. So like I was saying, my shoulder issues don't actually entirely stem from my shoulders. Some of it just stems from my thoracic region, and this exercise does help kind of open up my thoracic region, which is really good, really helpful. And yeah, so this is really good because your thoracic region, so in other words, everything where your ribs are is your thoracic region, and it doesn't just do extension, so in other words, so like sticking your chest out, or it also does rotation, and often it lacks rotation, so at least I do. Alright, so I always say that the best warm-up for an exercise is not actually the other exercises I was doing, like the shoulder rotation work or the hanging. That's all nice because it does sort of ready your body, your joints to kind of be able to do exercise, which is good. But the ultimate warm-up for an exercise is the exercise you're intending to do in the first place. So whether it's squatting, there's no exercise or anything that's going to ready your body better for squatting than squatting. So that's why it's important that your first set should always be done with a barbell. It's the best way to warm up your shoulders, your chest, the exact muscles in the exact way to get ready for doing the exercise. There is no better way than to do the exercise to get warmed up for the exercise. So that's what we're about to do. So if you're watching the last video, I made mention a lot of times about how for bodybuilding, the best thing we can do is at this point, well, our goal is actually to be doing 3 reps in reserve. So that basically means once I've done, say, this set, I'm going to ask myself, how many more reps could I have done? If the answer was 5, I've probably gone too light. I should probably go heavier. If the answer is, like 1 more rep, I've probably gone too heavy. I should back off a little bit. The answer should really be 3. 3 reps in reserve. Even maybe like 2 is okay, but 3 is actually what we're aiming for. It's a bit more sustainable. We can get more sets out if we do 3. We're not going to get as many sets out if we only have 1 rep in reserve, and we need the volume to grow to grow the muscle and to achieve what we're here to achieve. Now, the other thing is, we've got to keep our egos out of this, and we've got to keep our pride out of this, and we've got to make sure we're doing the right thing here. We've got to make sure that we're not going too light, we're not going too heavy. A lot of people will, especially in pride and egos involved, we tend to want to try push a little harder than we should, and we're not going to get the result of building muscle. So just bear that in mind. So if I was to ask myself how many more reps I could have done, I would probably say 6 to 5 reps. So I'm just going to go up a little bit, because a little bit's a lot in bench compared to squats or deadlifts or something like that. I feel like I'll probably go still 5 reps. So let's go. All right, that felt better. That was definitely a good weight. Felt nice. I could really get like a good burn in my chest. And I'm getting good engagement on my chest muscles. If I go too heavy, I tend to find that my chest is obviously working, but a lot of other muscles have to kick in a lot harder to work. So if I go too light, I'm not feeling it. So that was a perfect kind of weight. That's what you should kind of be looking for here. But it wasn't so heavy that I feel like next set's going to be my last set. I've still got a few more sets to go. So I don't want to make sure that my next set's my last set. I want to make sure that maybe like 3 or so sets later, or maybe 4 sets later, that's going to be my last set. So just try to gauge your weights. Alrighty. So again, we're going to be doing a bit of a superset with this and the bench press, because for safety, for time's sake, we need to make the most of the time we have at the gym, because we don't always get as much as we want. And if we can just bounce between the 2 exercises without having to rest too much, that's going to be really helpful, because you do need to get a certain amount of volume in with your training in order to grow muscle. And if you don't get as many reps and sets as we can in our session, then we're not going to be getting the muscle growth that we want either. So supersetting is going to be really helpful. Could probably go a bit heavier with that one. Alright. Now we're switching exercises a bit. Now, if a lot of you guys are kind of new to the gym and you haven't really been doing a lot as far as training is concerned, a lot of you guys are going to know that it's really good to kind of like change up your exercises a little bit. The exercises we just did then predominantly kind of worked on mid-chest, whole chest, but majority kind of like mid-chest. This exercise is going to be upper part of the chest, and so it's good just to get some variety in there. Otherwise, one, your body really likes it because it's a stimulus that your body uses to grow from. And the other thing is that you can kind of get you can personally just get a bit bored being at the gym too. So it's nice just to try different things. So let's get into it.
Much like the incline, it's important to keep variation in your back muscles too. So the other one was majority was going to be more about your mid back. This is going to be a little bit more targeting your lats and your outer shoulder muscles, so like your teres major, minor, infraspinatus, that kind of thing. And so again, good just for variation, and it's good for keeping yourself entertained as well, which is kind of good. Keep variety up, keep your body guessing. If you guys want some extra tips on specific things about an exercise, ask me. I have plenty of knowledge on lots of things about the gym. Like I said, I've been doing this for quite a while now. Okay, so we're going to do like a finishing exercise, and so we're going to do chest fly. Now, I've never really been a big fan of doing a machine chest fly or chest flies in general, and the reason being is because I wanted to do it, but I was always getting this pinching in my shoulders, and it never felt real good for me. And so what I'd realized is I was getting this pinching in my shoulders because my shoulders were, unstable, and I needed to stabilize my shoulders to help me do these types of exercises, especially an exercise where my arms are at full reach and you're in the most vulnerable position for your shoulders. So, two things that you could do. One, you address the instability issues. You could do that exercise we did at the start of the video with the external rotation. And there's other things you can do with just stabilizing. And if you want to know any of those, just let me know. But the other thing that we could do here to kind of help us stabilize is we can focus on depressing our shoulder blades. So if your shoulders are up here, your shoulder is not in the strongest position to stabilize. A lot of the stabilizers aren't actually there helping out anymore because they're in like this up position. So what we really want to do, if we can pull our shoulder blades down, that's actually going to switch on some more muscles to help sort of stabilize your shoulder. So if you've got that issue like I did, hopefully that helps. So I must admit, I've actually never done it. Well, I've done this exercise before, but not very much. So this might be my second or third time ever doing it. And the case for it was quite compelling, so I'm actually willing to give it a go. And the case for it is that we're trying to work our rear delts here, and my go-to exercise was always a dumbbell reverse fly, and which is good, but for a lot of people it can be quite difficult. And it's also quite difficult to stay strict on yourself because you're really wanting to cheat and have exercise quite a lot. The case for this exercise though is it's a lot simpler to learn how to do, but also you can lift a lot heavier weight on it, and because of that you might have better luck engaging your or training your rear delt muscles. So that's why I'm actually willing to give this a go. And at the end of the day, you got to be willing to trial and error on these things too. It mightn't work out, but hopefully it does. All right, I'm out. That's my session done. And just to follow up on that last exercise I did, read out one, I could probably pretty much say that's a pretty good exercise. It feels really nice. Your rear delts do actually burn quite a lot by the end, so that was really good. And yeah, then hopefully this session kind of strengthens us so that we can become more disciplined and pick up better habits and become more virtuous. And like I was saying on the first video, and we'll probably continue saying, is like the more the stronger and better I got at the gym, the more virtuous I became, and the more virtuous you become, the more strong-willed you become. You know, you can start becoming more disciplined about, your prayer life, and your, your service to God as well. So, you know, so as per usual, if you want to see how this journey goes, please just hang in there, give me a watch, and see what happens. I'm sure this whole thing will get better the more I do it. But glory be to God.